Hello, everyone. This is the YouTuber Colonel Kurtz. I'll just call her Colonel through it. And she is a great example of a YouTuber who's waking up to reality, but she's still flailing against her own preconceived ideas. And I'm going to see if I can't help her push beyond that wall. Now, she says Amber Heard was not an outlier. Wow. But activists are upset. I defend falsely accused men. Right. So she's finding out that there are men who are falsely accused. She's backing them up. And she's finding YouTube has a problem with it. Matter of fact, we will go directly to what she has to say.
The sad truth is that at any moment, the capricious overlords of social media and of YouTube and Google can decide that based on flagging or based on baseless complaints from Amber Heard supporters or Evan Rachel Wood supporters, that they can decide on a whim basically to pull the monetization for a channel. So we're always, those of us who make content, we're always on the precipice of being completely defunded. So
Exactly, Colonel, exactly. But who are the capricious overlords of YouTube? Well, it's a feminist CEO. How do you say her name again? Woj Kiki or whatever. Sorry about the name, but she's a card-carrying feminist. And so it shouldn't surprise you at all, Colonel, that a card-carrying feminist is going to defund women who defend falsely accused men because it's a hate movement. And this is the first preconceived notion you have to throw in the trash. Okay? That it's anything but a hate movement. So we'll get into this and we'll see how confused she gets over it, right? We'll start fairly close at the beginning.
in the aftermath of this trial. And I know that there has been a lot of discussion about all kinds of narratives that have emerged from this and all kinds of themes and all kinds of truths. And we'll be talking about this for a long time. A number of people are. But there's a couple of things in particular and that have really been bothering me just the last couple of weeks, and especially. And one of them you can see in a recent post on Twitter by a writer. She goes by the name, at least, Ella Dawson. And I've actually followed her a while back, years ago, because I actually appreciated some of her activist work on something totally unrelated to Me Too or to political activism. And so I actually...
Yeah, but this makes sense, right? Like a person could have good intentions overall, but still hold on to their hatred of something specific. I'm sure you can find racists, for example, who care about the whales, right? And so in this case, you find a sexist who cares about other things.
Actually started off, I knew who she was when she started talking about the Johnny Depp situation and then the Marilyn Manson situation recently. Well, so anyway, I think I had unfollowed her later or had a new Twitter account or whatever, and so sort of wasn't following her anymore, and just recently then saw that she had picked up the mantle of Amber Heard and was supporting Amber Heard. Now, I've had a number of people criticizing me for my support of Marilyn Manson and also for my support of Johnny Depp over...
But hold it, Colonel. It's not really criticism, though, is it? Because the court case has proven that Johnny Depp is completely innocent. He's the abused, and Amber Heard is the guilty party. She's the abuser. So there's nothing to criticize you about. These people are simply hate mongers who are on the side of women abusers.
For the last, I would say, several months. I mean, really from the beginning, I've received criticism for my Manson support, but it has really stepped up since the Johnny Depp trial. And I think that it's interesting how many Amber Heard supporters, even though there aren't many of them, of the small number that exist, how many of them are also really heavily invested in the idea that Marilyn Manson should be brought down and that it's a travesty of justice to even consider, to even entertain the idea that he might be innocent.
Of course, because they are a hate group and their targets are men. They're a hate group against men. So what they're fighting for, Colonel, is women's right to abuse men. So since they hate men, the man doesn't have to be guilty of anything. What his guilt is being born the sex he's born. That's what he's guilty of.
And I've received a lot of criticism online. Ella Dawson, most recently, she didn't name me, but it's very obvious here in her thread who she's talking about. The truth is that the subject matter that I focus on, it's not only unfashionable, but as many of you know, it makes you a target these days, and it makes you a target on social media and on YouTube. I have had
Yeah, you're realizing how unfashionable it is to stick up for men, innocent men. And you're finding that the platforms, right? The major platforms are controlled by feminists or feminist enablers. The feminists don't even have to be absolutely in charge. You just have to have feminist women in it, and non-feminists back them, support them. The women show support because they back other women, and men, of course, support women because they're also male hostile, or are at the very best indifferent to men suffering. Here's the thing, Colonel, the range of human, how people feel about men, the empathy that people have for men has a range from indifference all the way to extreme hostility. And the people you're dealing with are the extreme hostiles. But the enablers have indifference. They're willing to throw other men away in order to placate to women.
To fight, along with a lot of creators, I've had to fight for what monetization they do give me, and it's always subject to revision. And the most profitable and most popular video that I ever did, it was about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. It was a takedown piece on Amber. It was an interview with someone who had been around her one night when she accused Johnny Depp of abuse. And anyway, YouTube, with no warning, they went back after monetizing it. They went back and reviewed it a second time because they had gotten some complaints from some Amber Heard fans, and they demonetized it. I have stuff like that happening all the time. It really is a battle. Like this Ella Dawson.
Well, exactly. So even though you'll claim that these extremists are a small group, right? Yet they show tremendous power because these feminists get in positions of authority, right? They get in positions of authority. Women's social dominance power is amazing, Colonel, and you don't really realize it until you push against it. It's just that the average woman doesn't notice it because it benefits you. So you're like flowing along the current, and you don't realize there is a current until you start swimming the opposite direction. You go, oh my God, I'm not sitting in still water. I've been living my life in a current this whole time.
Awesome. Or some of the other women, some of the other activists who post online who I think are well-meaning, well-intentioned.
Hold it. This is what I'm talking about, Colonel. They are not well-intentioned. This is what you have to throw away in order to break through this wall. Feminists are not well-intentioned. It's a hate movement against men. They've never been well-intentioned. That's the first terrible preconceived notion you have to throw away.
And really think that they're helping women, and they have been through things in their life.
No, they're not. They're not. This is a total falsehood. They're not. They don't believe they're helping women. They're attacking men, and they know they are. They know what they're doing. They're not misguided. This is more excuse making. You don't want to admit that women have bad intentions towards men. Like I said, they're either hostile, like that young lady you showed, or they're like you, who are on the indifference side of the scale. You're not willing to admit the hostility.
I mean, look, I'm just as apt as anyone else to admit that there are a number of shitty men in this world, just like there are a number of shitty women.
No, Colonel, listen. You're misdirecting. Johnny Depp was an innocent man, or he is an innocent man, and he was abused by a guilty woman. Do not jump to this, oh, the world is just a shitty place. You're making excuses now.
Shitty the human species and life.
No, please stop this. Look, Colonel, when the KKK or the white nationalists go after minority men, you don't say, oh, there's shitty people everywhere. You know, there were shitty like Hispanic men, and that's why white nationalists exist. You don't say that. And this is the exact same thing.
In general,
you know, these are sexist women who hate men, and has nothing to do with the world is a shitty place.
World, nature, it is a fucking horror.
No, you're making excuses. Oh, let's get past this. Okay, now you're going to get into their false frame.
And so I know that there are terrible things that men have done to women. And I see women posting online, particularly some of these gender activists, and posting and speaking with such earnestness. And you do get the feeling that maybe it's...
See, you're giving in the frame. You're giving it, look, that's like saying the KKK, they're so earnest about the terrible black man who wants to rape their white women. And can I ask you, Colonel, why are you calling feminists gender activists? I am curious, though. This isn't being sarcastic. Is it a case that you're afraid to use feminist term for your channel, or are the feminists trying to rebrand because there's so much mud they can't wash off from that title, from that label? Are they relabeling? This is a curious now, okay? Now, what does men having done shitty things to women have to do with the innocent men that you are defending? Nothing. Exactly. So there's no reason to give into that. And again, to put the comparison, there probably has been a black man who's killed a white man. Does that mean you talk about that when the KKK are trying to lynch some guy? No, because you realize they're a hate group and what their motivations are, and you don't give them any leeway.
At some point earlier in their lives, you know, they themselves went through something shitty. No,
they didn't. They're just hate mongers, right? You don't say, hey, this white nationalist, he might have been beaten up as a boy by an Asian man or something like that, and that's why he became part of the white. You don't give them that kind of credence. You don't make excuses for them like that. Okay, so this is what I need to kill, Colonel. Okay.
It is this resentment, and I know that you've seen it too, a lot of you who are supporters of Johnny Depp and supporters of other men who have been falsely Me Too. One of the things that I've tried to do on my channel is I've tried to show that, unfortunately, we may not like it, okay, but Amber Heard is not necessarily an outlier.
Thank you for admitting that. You're finding out that, guess what? Women don't have good intentions towards men. I mean, this happens a lot, doesn't it?
And what I see with a number of these posts online is people either arguing, A, that Amber Heard actually was abused, that she was the abused party, that Johnny Depp did abuse her, and that what Amber Heard engaged in, it was, just as Amber Heard said, it was a kind of a reactive response or whatever, right? So I see that, and I see that with women, with writers like Ella Dawson, and with some of these gender activists. And I think what's going on...
Yeah, these feminists are liars. That's right. even though it's obvious to the world that Amber Heard is guilty. The evidence shows what is actually going on. They're just going to keep on lying. That's what hate mongers do.
On here is that they are so invested. Look, I get it in a way. They are.
No, you don't. No, you don't. They're invested in this way that Nazis are invested in the idea that 6 million Jews being murdered was a hoax. When Nazis claim that, do you go and say, oh, I understand that. I see where they're coming from? No. And that's what's going on. When you show that young lady who's just blatantly lying, why are you being so olive branch to her? Why are you extending an olive branch to her? This is a hate monger. You don't do that.
So invested in this narrative that women have been the victims of abuse, have been the victims of violence and harassment, and they're so invested in this narrative that a lot of this abuse has gone unpunished, and that we should be fighting.
Yeah, that's a lie. That's a lie that hate mongers have been saying, yeah. And you seem to want to believe it because that's the standard for people. People, like I say, are hostile to men. They like to think that men are the bad guys and women are the damsel who needs rescuing from them.
For more of it to be punished and for women to be able to live in a world that is safer, it's more accommodating, etc., right?
Hold it, there's two things. One, we're living in an era that's the most safe for women that has ever been. So, and also, women have always had a safer existence than men in any era. But right now it's so safe, you, Colonel, can walk around in high heels on the weekend with some girlfriends laughing and enjoying yourself, and you're not going to be a problem. You know, you're not going to suffer violence. The second thing is, why accommodating? Why would you make the faux pas saying accommodating? Why do women need to be accommodated specifically? You can't say something like that unless you're saying men shouldn't be accommodated. I mean, it goes without saying, it's the implication. Society does not owe women anything that they should be accommodating them.
Or as a baseline, a world where they don't have to be harassed and raped. Yes, I'm not against that idea in theory.
I'm against the idea of that because harassment in this case also includes something like catcalling. So to be against harassment, you would be pushing the idea that a man who says, hey, baby, you look fine, to be arrested. So that's what I'm for, that kind of harassment. I don't believe women should be shielded by low status men who come on to them. Sorry, I don't believe in that, Colonel.
The problem, though, is the complications of actually in the real world. You know, the ancient philosophers understood this. You know, you go back to like Socrates and Plato, for example, who understood the idea that the material world that we live in, by its very nature, it is imperfect. And so
they are doing it again. This has nothing to do with imperfection. Like I say, when racists go after other people, you don't say the world is imperfect. You say they're hate mongers and something has to be done by them, about them. And that's how you should be dealing with these hate mongers who are going after innocent men and falsely accusing them.
So things are going to slip through the cracks. Not all.
No, I'm sorry. I got to get past this.
Okay. And so what I'm trying to say is what we have these zealots, a number of these activists.
You mean feminist, right?
And so they're so blinded by that, by those good intentions.
No, they're not blinded by good intentions. You're giving into their framework. You're not willing to admit what's going on. These are hate mongers. I'm sorry, everyone. We're only like 6 minutes in. This woman just won't let this go. You want to believe that women don't have bad intentions towards men, and you are finding out through your own research that's not the case. People are male hostile, even other men. This is why this is happening, Colonel. There are no good intentions to these hate mongers. The KKK does not have good intentions, and feminists do not have good intentions.
About Amber Heard and about what really happened there. And then what I also see is this idea, well, okay, maybe Amber Heard, this is among some others, right? And there are a number in the Johnny Depp community like this. I'm not saying most.
This is important what Colonel is about to say. She's talking about even Johnny Depp fans.
Or whatever, but there are a number of people in the Depp community with this attitude. Well, okay, Amber Heard, she was this uniquely, evil specimen. And she did this, once in a lifetime, once in a century, crazy, never seen this before, hoax with, on Johnny Depp, ran this hoax on Johnny Depp. But aside from that, all the other women who accuse people of things are telling the truth, and we can trust the media narratives on the other stuff. And
exactly, Colonel. This is what I'm talking about the range from hostility to indifference. You see, Johnny Depp is universally loved. So everyone wants to back him and say he's an innocent guy. This includes the average guy who people know personally. If you know a guy personally and like him, you say, oh, no, give him justice. But every other guy who I don't know is a villain. This is the indifference that the average guy has. Matter of fact, now after you speak about this, here's a guy who comes into your own comment section and is guilty of what you're talking about. So he watched your video and lacks self-awareness. Look, Adam Fan. It broke my heart when I found out that Bill Cosby was a rapist, but the facts were there. I love the man. So Bill Cosby he's innocent. That's why he was let go. So this guy has watched that case, and instead of saying Bill Cosby, who was a good person, who was railroaded, and then he got justice, instead of saying that, he is upholding this terrible, terrible idea. He's upholding the lie. After hearing you talk about this, that's incredible. And he talks about the Me Too movement here, I believe. So, I mean, you are actually fighting uphill, not only for yourself, but other people.
And if somebody looks like they're weird, or if they said weird stuff in interviews, or if they have a weird image, that they.
But this has nothing to do about them saying weird stuff in interviews or having a weird image. Look who you're showing. You're showing Johnny Depp, a guy. Marilyn Manson, a guy. There's only one aspect about these people that puts them in this particular situation, and that's their sex. Female celebrities can say all kinds of weird shit, and they never get in this kind of trouble, do they, Colonel?
They've cultivated throughout the years. Or if you have more than one accuser, or you have more than one person attesting to the fact that this person did this or whatever, then of course we should believe that. And a number of these activists are really, I think, have been able to convince a number of people in the Depp community that the proper way to look at the Amber Heard Johnny Depp situation is as a kind of an anomaly, that Amber Heard is an anomaly.
Of course, they can convince them because the Depp fans want to believe it. They like Johnny Depp specifically, so they want him to be treated like a human being. But they are hostile to other men. Even the male Depp fans are like this. This is the human nature you're coming up against, Colonel.
And I'm sorry, but that's, sorry, not sorry, that's just not true, all right? I want to do a show later on about this. I will try to do one soon. But it is just not true, and it is not backed up by the evidence that we do have. And there's not a lot of it, but the evidence that we do have, it is not backed up by that. This idea that women never lie about assault, or never lie about harassment, or never lie about this kind of stuff.
I'll go one further, Colonel. Not only that it's untrue that they never lie. I would posture or position that their lies are common stance. That's why the Middle East, by the way, did have rules like they needed 2 women to accuse a man, because they were a society who were in touch with gender dynamics. They realized women turn on men all the time and falsely accuse them as a matter of course.
It's just not true. How often do I think they lie? If you know, you put a gun to my head and I had to come up with a figure that I think is accurate, I would say 25. I would say 20 to 25%. But
I would say 90 to 100%, no less than 90, because that's what the Me Too hashtag is about. Now, let me show you something. This is why you're talking about the Me Too. This is why it has always been unnecessary. I'm going to show you a case that shows just how lenient the legal system is to women. There's a huge gender bias in the legal system. And so you don't need, Colonel, to have a Me Too movement. Now, here's a case of a mother of a 2-year-old girl who starved to death after being kept in an insect-infested flat, and she felt no guilt over it. This is a video that I should do myself. In any event, it was a lesbian couple, and they let this sweet little girl starve to death through neglect. Know what the legal system gave these 2 women? The pair were jailed in 2019 for 6 years and 4 months each. They gave these 2 a lousy 6 years for murdering a child through neglect. Though Miss Wade, one of them, was released in March this year, while Sweeney is up for parole in October. So not only did they give them a measly 6 years, they didn't even spend 6 years. 2019, and now it's what, 2022, so 3 years. So they did half their sentence. So, Colonel, in a world that allows, or I should say a justice system that allows women to murder children and give them lousy 3 years for it, there is absolutely no reason for them to have a Me Too movement. Any woman who uses Me Too has 0 evidence against the man she's accusing, so she doesn't want to have to deal with the police. Your Amber Heard case shows that this woman is a liar, and she had 0 evidence. And that's why it's such an important case, right? It's exposing the legal system, exposing how women feel about men. But the point is, the Me Too movement is a criminal act. Any woman who uses it is doing it to circumvent the legal system that's already biased in her favor. And men don't even have to get jailed. They lose employment, and they get ostracized from their social circles. They become pariahs. So they don't even have to go get jailed. And that's why the legal system is avoided altogether.
But I would be comfortable with saying even 10%, because even 10%, the truth is
No,
still...
I'm not comfortable, because that would be false. Now let's get ahead of this.
Say to me, well, look, I know that you defend Marilyn Manson. I know that you think Marilyn Manson is innocent of things he's been accused of. And there's certainly, have been a number of women have accused him. And so, you just said 1 out of 10, or you just said 25%. Well, you're wanting us to believe, though, the Marilyn Manson situation, that we've got a number of women who are lying. Yeah, I do. And I would invite you to look at the video.
Exactly. Now, Colonel, just a minute. Sorry, I'll go a little further ahead because she's going to plug a video of hers.
That I just made. I try not to make it too long. It's only 29 minutes, but a video that I just made where I put in as much information as I could get into one video as to why I do believe he's innocent, Marilyn Manson, and that these allegations.
Exactly. Okay. The point is, Colonel, is that if once you start defending these innocent men and you start pointing out the fact that all the women are lying, which they are, then it destroys, it exposes that women in general don't like men, are willing to attack them, and society at large is willing to support them. And if when you do this, what it does, it shows the Me Too movement for exactly what it is. And it might get shut down, which is one of the best pushes for justice that we can do right now, is shut down that criminal act, that hashtag. And they're afraid of this. These hate mongers are afraid of this. And the average woman on the street actually is afraid of this too. You don't want to admit it, because the average woman on the street wants to exercise her social dominance over men in her society. And this is the very core and the very heart of this, because these extremists wouldn't be able to do what they do if the average woman on the street didn't benefit from it and didn't want it herself. So you are looking at a mirror at your own nature. And this is one of the things you have to try to come to terms with. You either come to terms with it or you lie to yourself, like you did earlier, saying, well, these women have good intentions. And this is what you're up against. And we will see if you can finally push past this. Now, I could make this a longer video, because I think there's so much more they can say, and I might make it in 2 parts, because then you even talk about, what is this gentleman here, this guy here, yes, this could be a separate video, and I think I might make it a separate video where you expose even further cases. But I think this is good enough for the time being, because this video, the purpose is, can you, Colonel Kurtz, push past this wall and admit what men are up against? Admit that the judicial system is against men, the education system is against men, that the average person on the street is male hostile. So I'll see if there's anything further we can talk about, and then, well, I'll end it if there isn't any. Okay, there is more. There is more. This is another one, a case where it's proving what you're seeing.
That I've talked about, we talked about media and celebrity and all of this stuff. Okay, she is not an anomaly. And, you know, if you look at interviews with celebrities, someone was just telling me the other day about Too Short, I guess the rapper Too Short, and how he said in an interview that he had been sued for child support by so many women. And he, of course, when he gets sued, he fights it, right? I guess he goes to court and he demands the appropriate testing and everything, and these lawsuits get thrown out. But what he said in the interview is that if he didn't contest these, you know, he gets sued by so many women, and it's totally baseless for child support. Women claim.
Exactly. So how many women come after this guy for child support? But also, why should a man like, what's his name, Too Short, be harassed like this on a regular basis? The legal system is allowing this, Colonel. And by the way, this is another thing. Child support, Colonel, is not the same as saying, I want to marry Too Short. Women do not actually love men or want to deal with them, because if they did, they would demand shared parenting, or they wouldn't kick the man out of the family unit in the first place. But child support is free money to women. It's woman money. It's making a man who's never met you pay you money. That's what it is. It has nothing to do with the child at all. And so by mentioning this, you're again reinforcing this idea of how women see men, that these women at best have indifference towards male suffering. They looked at Too Short and say, I don't know this man, I have nothing against him, but I'm willing to make him suffer for my benefit. So this reinforces everything I've been telling you. Okay. Okay, Colonel, now you're going to do some more olive branching to these hate mongers. Okay, which is a mistake. When the KKK shows up, you don't offer them an olive branch, right?
That's the way it was presented to me, is Edwin's freaking out. So I actually don't know if you were freaking out, Evan, or not. So Edwin. But I know that Edwin was accusing me of being biased. I don't think you know what that word means. Biased does not mean opinionated, okay? Edwin, I have been studying this, and I know that word sounds sort of pretentious, but I'm serious.
Yeah, you are trying to explain yourself to these hate mongers why you're doing that. You don't need to. You know, you don't go up to the white nationalist or even the black nationalist and tries to explain things. You wouldn't. You would just say, hey, they're hate mongers. I know what their position is. Their position is bad, and I don't support that. That's why you aim for this. This guy isn't confused. And when he says you're biased, what he means is that you don't hate men. That's what he means. You're actually showing some kind of empathy for men when you defend them. And you're showing some kind of justice. You're treating men like human beings. That's what he means by bias. So this is what I'm explaining to you. Okay, now you're talking about that you're not biased, but you're going to admit that you were biased at the beginning.
Prejudged, okay? And I did not prejudge. Do you know what? I actually thought, before I looked into it, I thought that Marilyn Manson was probably guilty for the same reasons as other people.
Exactly. So you did prejudge. And you're biased. You're biased in a way that the average person is biased towards men. And you have to wake up and realize that you were biased this whole time.
I thought, oh, there's a lot of women accusing him, and look at all the freaky stuff that he said, and look at how he looks, and et cetera, right? I'd seen Evan.
Yeah, like a lot of women said, that's right. But now you're finding out that women lie as a matter of course. And men have known this from ancient times.
Rachel Wood crying before Congress. Honestly, I thought parts of that were a little bit strange, but I bought it. She's a good actress.
But you didn't buy it because she was a good actress. You bought it because you had this bias that people have.
So I didn't come into this biased or prejudiced.
You did. You just admitted that you did. You thought that Marilyn Manson was guilty. That was the bias you started with. It's all right to admit that.
In fact, if you will go back and look at my first video, I guess you've looked at it, Edwin. I think I'm pretty clear in that first video, maybe even in the second one, actually. First couple of videos that I don't know what to think, but that here are these problems that no one has been addressing with these stories and with the way that these women have gone about this and with the contradictions.
Yeah. So now you're finding out by immersing yourself in the truth, all these terrible aspects about human psychology. But like you said, like I say, you are struggling getting all the way with it. Now I think we can actually stop here, because the second part where you talk about the man who was the professor who was zapped, that's I'm going to say for another video. But Colonel, you see what you're up against, and I hope that you find my video enlightening, and hopefully you'll see it and respond to it. Thank you.